We are live. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome to our very first LinkedIn Live event, where today we're going to be doing a super deep dive into the exciting world of augmented reality apps. I'm Corey Morris. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at SynergyXR, and with me today are two of my favorite colleagues. We have Thomas Finger. He's the Chief Experience Officer at SynergyXR, and our favorite video content producer, Jacob Sterrell. Say hi, guys. Thomas, you can wave. It's okay.
Hi,
guys. So first of all, as an American, I should say that just remind everybody, this is Thanksgiving. This is Turkey Day. Gobble, gobble. They're getting ready right now for the big Macy's Thanksgiving parade in New York. So I just want to use that as an opportunity to say thanks to all of you for joining us today. We're super excited to have all of you with us. So before we begin, I want to hear where people are joining us from today. So feel free to drop that into the comment section in LinkedIn, and we'll do a little shout out for you. Also, if you have any comments or questions during our time today, feel free to throw them in the comment section, and we'll try to get to them. I think that's about it, guys, before we get to it. Jacob, Thomas, anything you guys want to add before we get started?
No, I think we're good.
Great. Basically, just invite people in. Like Corey just said, I will throw in comments whenever there's something interesting that we can discuss. So really feel free to participate. We want to hear from you as much as you guys are going to hear from us.
Exactly. Great. So let's get to it. All right. So we're going to add this to the stream. We're going to change things up a little bit. And I think we're good, right? I'm checking with a guy over here. Are we looking good over here? Yes.
2 seconds delay.
I'm sorry, what?
2 seconds delay.
Okay. I'm hearing there's a few seconds delay, but that's okay, though. All right. So great. Let's get started. So, guys, we're here today to talk about the fastest way to your new AR app. And really, the thing is, there's lots of ways to use augmented reality apps. I think it's important for us to start by saying that what we're going to be focusing here on today is the commercial aspect of it. So we're going to be looking at the marketing and sales side of it. Having said that, there are other ways of using augmented reality apps, but I guess you'll have to join us next time for our next LinkedIn Live event where we'll go in depth with those. I also want to start by saying that, hey, first of all, we're not just another agency. We're not trying to sell you something that we can't build ourselves. In fact, we are SynergyXR. We're one of the world's largest leading developers of extended reality solutions for business. And the thing is, guys, we've been doing this for a long time. Actually, we were founded in 2008 by the same exact team who founded Unity Technologies, that Danish unicorn that's doing so great right now. We started with them back in 2008. So we've been doing this for a really long time. And quick brag, we've been doing this for some of the world's leading brands. So we're super excited to share that with you. Let's get into today's game plan. We have 6 chapters for you. We're going to be looking at what is AR, what is augmented reality. It's going to be high level just to get you guys up to speed on what we mean by augmented reality. Then we're going to be looking at the market impact. We're going to be looking at some real world examples. And then we're going to do a little deep dive into a case which we're going to look at Kompan and look at how we developed an AR app for them. And then we're going to be looking at what goes into building a custom AR app. And then last but not least, we'll be looking at our process, which gets an AR app into your hands in less than 5 weeks. Anything else you guys want to add to the game plan?
No, it's going to be fun.
Sounds good.
I think so. Great. So what is augmented reality, also known as AR? So guys, I don't know about you, but the way I like to think about AR when I really try to explain it to people in a simple way is that it's a cool way to see things differently. You know, it's whether you're using your mobile like here or you're using a tablet, it's really about overlaying that computer generated graphic on top of the real world using your device's camera. You know, when you guys are explaining augmented reality to people who maybe don't understand the technology, what do you guys do to explain them?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying also. Like, you can do a lot of stuff, and it's all about the context. Get something in there that sort of, as you say, augments the real world and get it into context. And it could be guidance, it can be fun and games like this one, and it can be any kind of layout, any situations where you really need something, some kind of information there in the context. So it's all about context, basically.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing is that here. I mean, if you're one of the 1.5 million users like Snapchat, Instagram, Pokemon Go, I mean, you're already familiar with it. You're already using augmented reality. I think a lot of people, when I tell them that, they're like, oh, well, that makes perfect sense. But the thing is it can be used for so much more, right? So before we go a little bit further, I think there's something we need to talk about, and that's app-based and web-based AR, because there actually are two different forms of augmented reality. So the first one is app-based AR. I think most people know this already. In for example, we're using IKEA PLACE as an example. I mean, IKEA PLACE is the darling of AR apps. I think IKEA introduced it 4 or 5 years ago. The funny thing is that it's still an editor's choice so many years afterwards, has a great rating on the App Store. There are some pros and cons with it. For example, with the app-based AR, it requires download. But the good thing, obviously, is that it works across all mobiles, including some of the older ones. It supports more complex 3D models, and you don't have to have the internet connection, at least not always. So basically, the key takeaway here when app-based AR is that it's more stable and reliable. What do you guys think?
No, exactly. And yeah, I'm so happy that you said "and" on the previous slide there. So it's not versus or either or. It's basically a continuum of what you need to do with your assets and your products.
Yeah. So I think you're right, because I think a lot of people try to kind of create this conflict between them, that it's web-based versus app-based, but I don't necessarily see it the same way.
Yeah,
But
no,
also,
exactly. So, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but also back to the fact that maybe right now it's moving so fast that we can go to IKEA Place. It's 5 years old, but so many things are happening, especially with the web-based right now, that it becomes this battle because web-based is sort of new and app-based is the old, what everybody knows. And then how are they gonna work together? That's really the genius part here.
Yeah, I think so.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Thomas. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, just to punch in there, like whenever you have your assets ready and you have something you want to show, it's just two different ways of showing the same assets, the same products.
Absolutely. So guys, why don't we take a look at what web AR actually looks like? I think most people are familiar with app-based AR. So here's an example of web-based AR. So instead of showing you guys like a static image, I got this little video of a guy, I don't know if it's a guy or a girl, but somebody going into a store and using web-based AR with an Adidas product. So let's see if we can get this to play. The person goes in, scans a QR code. Wow, that's coming back. That's making a comeback, huh? As you can see, it opens a browser, and then suddenly they can just, use their phone, look at this shoe, and they can see it turning. It's really, really amazing, in terms of the visual component. You got a super dynamic 3D Adidas logo doing some spinning, and then you get some functionality there, but you can't touch any of this stuff, right? You can't interact with it.
No, that's probably it. Like, I just want to get back to that QR code. We love the QR code. It's so awesome.
QR codes are making a comeback. I love that.
Exactly, and everybody knows what it is. I mean, that's a big thing now. It's a call to action basically. If you see a QR code, you bring out your phone, you scan that. That can either launch the app or it can just get you directly to the web solution.
I think the key takeaway here in terms of web-based AR, it's hard to cut you off, Thomas, but it's really that you don't have to download an app. We've gotten accustomed to that, but I think this is kind of the next step. This is where we're headed. It doesn't take any storage on your phone, but obviously the downside is it only works with certain browsers, and it only supports simple 3D models. And that's probably because that's where we are in terms of technology right now. And you have to be tethered to the internet all the time.
Yeah, and what's also interesting here is that now we have users from Amsterdam and India logging in here, and maybe there's a different usage, and maybe people have arrived at different places around the world right now. Like in some places, what makes QR come back is actually the QR maybe wasn't ready on its own, but when paired with web-based AR or app-based AR, it's ready to come back and actually use its full potential. Like that's also one of the interesting things here, that different technologies start speaking together and actually enhancing each other.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. Another example, a real world example from web AR is I've seen people using it in terms of enhancing their business cards. So basically using the same QR thing, putting your phone over a business card and suddenly you get all this information. I think it's cool. Thomas, a quick takeaway. Where do you see web AR, app-based AR headed? Where are we in 2, 3, 5 years?
I think I see them merging basically. There's no doubt that we are moving toward a web-based way of interacting, and our phones is just sort of the mainstream platform to go by now. And I definitely see there's a lot of benefits to using the application, the app-based AR, because it just has more functionalities, but a lot more of those functionalities is just moving into the web-based version.
Yeah,
so
and as
I said,
And as big tech continues to introduce hardware as well, I think, we'll see, this technology being used other ways than just our phone and our tablets. That'll be exciting to see as well.
But again, it's not an either or, it's not a conflict. It's basically just
No.
moving from one way to do it to another. That's like basically where you see it.
That's a good point. All right, let's move on, guys. So I want to just take a few moments and look at the overall market impact, because the thing is this is going to be a gigantic market. Latest report from Yahoo puts it at $230 billion by 2027. That's not very far from now. What's your take on that?
It's a dream big number. I really can't relate to that number, but it's obvious that things are happening here. And as I said, the phone is a platform, and augmented reality is just a way to bring that info from the phone and out into the world. So
yeah, I think people have really gotten their eyes on it now. Let me share some more information with you. So there's a recent study of U.S. shoppers, or I think it was around 1,100 U.S. adult shoppers, in a study from 2021 said that 34%, a third, are already using some form of AR while shopping. So I think that's pretty exciting. Looking at some other numbers, 65% of them are using it in a pre-purchase stage to basically do a little research before they actually buy a product. And I think this is also incredibly interesting. 71% said they'd shop more if they used AR apps. If that's not a moment for brands to start recognizing the power of this, then I don't know what is.
Yeah, and here it could actually be funny just to ask the question to our viewers, like, are anybody actually using AR right now in their part of the world when they go shop or in everyday life, or do they still use the IKEA Place and that's their go-to AR still?
That's a great question.
It's sort of interesting. How is it actually used outside of the US as well?
Yeah, so share with us what your favorite AR app is if you're using it, and if you're using it in a shopping experience. So I think the last number I want to share with you guys is really about trying before you buying. 33% of these adult shoppers are ready to preview a product in AR before buying it. So a third of the people want to look at a product before they buy it. And I think that's what we'll see in some of these real world examples that we're going to show in just a few moments. However, though, I think it's important to kind of put a button on this, or put a ribbon on this, by saying that it's really just about a new part of your overall customer journey. I think it's a touch point where we can engage people before, during, and after. We talked about before that people are using it to research products in the right context. I think the right context is the key word there, being able to see these products in your home, for example, but also during. We saw an example with the web base where people are using it to create another type of engagement in store. One thing we're not going to talk about today, but I think is really interesting, is how you're able to use it after a purchase. So in terms of service, maintenance, and support, we're sharing some stuff on our channels about companies doing stuff like this. I think we'll save that for another episode. But it's really, I think, sorry, Thomas, go ahead.
Yeah, I can just add, like one thing is after, for like sort of things that are happening after, but it's also about long-term engagement, because if you use, say like the IKEA Place, you place in your couch and it matches. Next time you're looking for furniture, you remember the same app, you bring it up again, and so there's sort of like continued engagement with your clients there, or your customers. So it's very important.
Yeah, I think it's just a natural extension of your brand touch point. It's just another way of engaging customers across that customer journey, which continues to grow as technologies enter the market. Let's look at some real world examples, though.
Yeah, before that, actually connecting to that, Corey, we already have one that Mina here uses the PostNord app in Denmark when doing shopping or getting things in home. And I know that one of the things you can look at is sort of package size and stuff like that. And I think that's a really good example of how you can use these different AR solutions, is to see how big would this actually be in my setting at home. Again, for the preview state, right?
Yeah, it's actually, that's one of my favorite apps. I think I shared a post about it a few months ago, actually. I think PostNord is doing some really exciting stuff there. It's also a great idea to see how big that package is when you go and pick it up, right?
Yeah, and it's fun for people that don't live in Denmark, because that's actually a company that's gotten a lot of slack for not being with it and not following the times, but they're actually doing stuff that's sort of next gen. It's really cool.
No, thanks for sharing that. Appreciate that. So let's look at some real world examples real quick. So obviously we talked about IKEA Place. For those who don't know it, IKEA Place, which is, I guess everybody knows IKEA, but IKEA Place is basically lets you take their furniture, take their products, and then, basically show them in your homes. I think when this entered the market, this was a game changer. It was about 5-6 years ago, right, Thomas?
Yeah, I think 6 years now. It's coming up on almost 7 years, I think, actually, from the first time I heard about it.
Right.
What's kind of interesting is that just this one is an app, and I talked about long-term engagement with your clients, like they come back and again, and it's become the sort of the poster child of a successful augmented reality app, and it's the IKEA app. Everybody knows, okay, that's AR. Actually, what they do there could easily have been done in a web application today. We talked about that earlier, but actually, because it's an app, it has actually sort of become something that exists, sort of like a what do you call, like, for the long-term thing, like it's something you go back to again and again.
No, that's interesting, and I think this is also a really good example of the whole try before you buy experiences that really make augmented reality, like we write here, a game changer. Let's look at another one. This is houses. This is a company called it's called Hus Compagniet, translated into English and Danish, Hus Compagniet. They actually let you look at the house of your dreams in augmented reality. Here we're seeing it at a much smaller scale, but I think you can also boost it up to normal scale. You can customize it, and you can use your phone or your tablet to actually walk inside the house and see the structure. I think this is pretty amazing. What are your thoughts on it, guys?
Yeah, it's super cool. And one of the things that they really catched on here is, like, you could say, like, why would you want for a single product to engage like this? But actually remember that buying a house is a big decision. So you want to be able to go out on the site, see it in context, try different kind of bricks, and think about it a couple of times, get back there. It's not something that you just spontaneously buy. So this is a really cool way to just support that kind of decision process, or that journey that people go through before they buy a house.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great example of the pre-purchase part of that journey. Jakob,
and an important thing here that I think that you're absolutely correct about when we talk, Thomas, about this at the company, just for the solutions that we do, is that Hus Compagniet has definitely replaced something, but also enhanced something that they couldn't do before. So they found a new niche with the AR app, right? Which is quite important.
And they also kind of caught on to something really important with the house. Like, after you purchase or after you buy, you're talking a lot about the house that you bought. You kind of become sort of a what do you call that, evangelist for that company,
absolutely.
right? So you can say, hey, see the house we bought, like, we don't see it, and notice that this is actually sort of in a scaled down version in the living room, so you can show it to your friends or your family. But you can also go out on site.
Yeah, there's the little button down here where you can take a snapshot of it, which allows you to share it. Because let's look at the other companies that don't have an AR app when they're trying to sell houses. It's really brochure based, right? It's paper based. It's a pure 2D experience. So in the interest of time, let's move on, guys. So then there's Bang&Olufsen. So we've done fast furniture, we've done homes, and now we're looking at high end sound equipment. Bang&Olufsen, if you guys don't know, is a Danish company notorious for high-end sound equipment, and they've created their B&O app experience, which basically lets you see their products in your home. I think in many ways, a B&O product is not just an audio product; it's also it's art. It's a way of making your house look really nice. What I think is interesting is that these three examples, they're being used by furniture, construction, and high-end audio. They also represent different categories, but also different price points. I mean, we're talking about millions with a home. We're talking about fast furniture, which is not that expensive. And then we're talking about high-end sound equipment. I think the key thing that kind of ties them all together, though, the way I look at it, is that it allows you to experience their product in the right context. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
No, I think that's, as I said before, like, context is key to this one. And with Bang&Olufsen, because they are really interior decoration, you're building your own art. You're just not just taking a regular square like a TV. You're actually sort of augmenting your own, pun intended. It gives you the try before you buy and engage in a completely different way. Right? So that.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think that the apps here, the examples that we have here, one important thing to notice, they show different things. Like Thomas pointed to before, was that the IKEA app could actually be web-based, whereas the Hus Company, with all the different opportunities you have inside the app, still needs to be an app. So we might be moving towards web-based, but if it becomes too technically advanced, you still have to use an app.
That's interesting.
Yeah. That's true, and I think we're gonna touch back on that, but that's also about like how swiftly do you want the engagement and how long lasting engagement are you looking for. That's also something here. But I think this one is also, say, show it to your friends kind of thing that just makes this last more than having a catalog. Nobody wants to see a picture of a speaker in a catalog. Hey, see what I'm buying, but they would definitely like to see what I'm going to put up on my wall.
Well, again, I mean, I think for Bang&Olufsen, I mean, their products are just as much art. It's also a way of just decorating your home. There's obviously the shareability of it as well. So look at this, share it with friends. Do you guys have any final comments on this before we move on?
Yeah, the fun thing is
super
that
awesome.
you can share it when standing with friends, right? So it also goes back to this, not brochure based, but it's not like you share it online necessarily, but you're standing there physically with someone and showing it to them. That's a neat thought as well.
And getting an opinion before you're going to put up that like major speaker systems, like just getting opinions from the people like you kind of trust to give you opinions.
Yeah.
So,
and just so everyone knows, we're slightly biased when it comes to Scandinavian examples. So these are not the only companies in the world doing this. There are probably thousands doing this right now. We just seem to be partial, I guess, when it comes to Scandinavian brands. But there are lots of people doing this. So let's move on, guys. So this kind of gets to the heart of our conversation today, and that's the one that we did for Kompan, which is called the Imagine It app. And I think let's start by showing this really cool video, which kind of brings the entire case study to life. And I hope it plays without any hiccups. Here we go. Let's get it going.
Kompan has something exciting to share. Say hello to our new augmented reality app, Imagine It. As a kid, using your imagination comes naturally. When you grow up, it's nice with a little help. Imagine It lets play take over. Simply browse. Oh wait, go back. That looks fun. Select. Place. Position. And rotate to see results in real time. Wow, pretty awesome. Now we just need a lifeboat there. Oh, and maybe some dolphins here. We want people everywhere to imagine a happier and healthier world. The only limit is your imagination. Meaning goodbye boredom and hello playtime. A whole lot more of this. Definitely some of this. New places to play for the little ones, medium-sized ones, and even the bigger ones. Play around and let your ideas take over. Then start again from scratch. Just download the app and imagine it. Because if you can imagine it, we can build it. Kompan, let's play.
I love that video. I want to go out right now and start playing in a playground, start building playgrounds.
Yeah, exactly. I want to buy my own playground.
That's awesome. So the thing is we built this custom AR app for Kompan. Thomas, why don't you kind of walk us through the process that we went through with Kompan building this app?
Yeah, sure. Just one thing is like this one is where we really took it far. We really iterated a couple of times over this application and added more and more sort of features and functionalities to it.
Yeah, we're still doing that today, right? Aren't we?
Yeah, we're still pushing the limits here. It's a lot of interesting possibilities in this application still. Well, one of the things, like just from the top, Kompan builds they basically their services. They have a fire and forget approach to playgrounds. So basically, if you have a plot of land, you have an age group, and you have a budget, they will make sure everything is good. They make sure that it just hits exactly at that age, and so as they say, different ages, right? So you want different kind of playgrounds and equipment there. What they have realized here is that they interface with a lot of people from different things. It could be architects, it can be owners, it can be members of the board in a kindergarten. It can be a lot of different people that are stakeholders for this playground. And it's something that you really want to sort of share with a lot of people. You don't want to be the only one that just decided this. So there's a lot of thought on back. It's a lot of play around.
Right.
Also, they notice that whenever they go to come out to a new client, the sales representatives, they travel to that lot, then they show a catalog and they see an empty lot and they move again. And it becomes kind of a little bit of an anti-climax for the clients. It's just, okay, here's a catalog and they met a person. What they would like to do is just have their clients engage with the products a lot earlier and just play around, as I say. And they can do that with this application. The core functionality is that you actually can do your own layouts, so you can mix and match, and you could put in each. You have the complete catalog is available there.
So it's basically SimCity in an AR app, but with playgrounds.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good analogy. And then they can show that to the sales reps instead and say, hey, we're thinking something like that. And they say, okay, yeah, you kind of mix two age groups there, but if you replace it with this one, I think you have something going. So you get a lot more engagement and a lot more of, so it's way easier to communicate when you actually see this stuff.
So does it sort of also, like it maintains their aspect as experts? They still need to be there because they can say, yeah, that's good for this age group, or that's good for this age group. So having an expert there still matters. Like the phone doesn't replace everybody, but it enhances what they can do.
No, yeah, exactly. And it's just you just move sort of 40% ahead in the process. Basically, you get people engaged, and you also would you say again, you have that kind of evangelist thing. Like once you have that app and you design this playground, you want to show it to other people. So you say, hey, how about this? And you're thinking about maybe that ship and those two dolphins like they show here. And people say, I don't like dolphins, but other rockers could be cool, and we definitely should have a seesaw and so on. So you have that possibility of actually sort of moving around your pieces in a sort of like social way.
So Thomas, just to be specific, who was this app designed for? Who are the end users?
So this is kind of a funny thing because it's the end users is on paper that would be all the people that is going to having sort of the stakeholders in building that playground, one way or the other, right?
So like schools, municipalities trying to
but
think
also
about how they can use
architects
space. Okay.
or park owners. It could be a lot of different people. Whenever you have sort of it's a broad range of people actually wanting to have an opinion or the responsibility, or what you call that, to just build this. But actually, It's also something that the salespeople can use, because they can actually build sort of their own ideas and show them. So instead of having to do sort of just hand waving and saying maybe this and pointing on catalog, you can actually, as a sales rep, say, okay, how about this layout? So it's both giving the tools in the hands of the end client and using the same tools from the company side. So it becomes sort of like a dual.
Okay, just to be clear, the way their sales teams were doing it beforehand, they just had brochures, so it was an analog experience.
Exactly, they had like the big catalog, and then they had sort of themed brochures, and they bring sort of that stack of paper.
So that was the pain point.
And that would quickly become something that's just left in the cafeteria somewhere on the desk.
Right.
And it seems an important part in the AR workflow, right? That what's the alternative? What did you have before? Yeah. So what new does AR bring? And Kompan here, they had a good idea and they executed on that idea.
Extremely great idea, yeah. And also they want to integrate everything. So again, they want to bring their catalog to life. So there's also that integration that you can actually sort of, scan the catalog and see that. It's just like actually literally just bring it from the catalog and out into your garden.
How many products does Kompan have in their catalog?
I can't remember, something between 1,500 and 2,500, something like that. It's like huge catalog, and they are kind of upgrading constantly. They have new themes and they have things. That's the awesome thing. We built this catalog dynamically, so they can actually just put it. This is a sales pitch here. They can just put it on their back end, and the app will automatically just bring it into the catalog. And
so in a way, it's kind of like giving your sales team their product catalog just in their pocket, in their phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just imagine the alternative again, right? That would be 15 to 2,000 small models that you can scale up when you're showing it to the customer. Like you would need 15 trucks when going out on sales to showcase this.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff flipping through the catalog. Say flip, this one, flip, this one. Imagine these two together.
So Thomas, let's actually look into some of the interaction that we designed in the app. So what type of interaction were we going for here?
Yeah, so first off, you want to be able to just browse the catalog, pick an item, and then, as you can see here, tap to place. Basically, place it in there. You can then turn it around. You can move it around. So
a fairly simple user experience, it looks like.
Yeah, the face of it. But then one of the things that you normally don't see is that then you can add another piece of furniture, another piece of a play item, right? They call it, and you can start to see constellations. Then on top of that, you can sort of take a snapshot and you can just share that. That's just integrated with the whole CRM system, so you can contact the right region. That's very important also for Kompan, because they, as I said, they have this fire and forget approach. So the client shouldn't really worry about safety regulations or foundations, safety zones, all that stuff. So we kind of build in that regionally that's different. So whenever you're in a place, you can sort of contact the right regional manager, and they will sort of engage with you afterwards. So
okay,
say,
so
hey,
if I'm a global,
so
if I'm a global brand working with a global sales team, I can do region specific categorization.
Exactly.
And if we look back at the comments over here, then earlier Mina said that the PostNord app is not a shopping app, but it's to see the package size. Basically, that's also what Kompan is doing here, right? It's not a sales app. You can't buy it in the app, but you can look at it and become interested.
It's a design and layout application. I think that's what it does.
What's the shelf life of a product like this, Thomas?
Several years. We see one of the things is that some of the people that Kompan are interfacing with will be sort of architects or planners or something. So they can see, they will go back to this app. It's something they will actually have installed on their phone every time they go out and talk with a new client. So now we're talking about, say, an architect or what do you call, like a garden entrepreneur. They would actually have the same app. Say, hey, how about this spot would be good for a small playground? Let me just whip out the app. How about this? So you actually have something that becomes a tool for the middleman there.
Great. So let's be honest. What was the biggest challenge we had with this?
Definitely getting all the models available. That's something that you should, of course.
So all the 3D models, right?
All the 3D models need to be prepped and sort of made available. The good thing is that Kompan has a tremendously well ironed workflow with this. Just like I know IKEA also have, like, they have all their products in 3D models. So it's a matter of like converting them and crunching them so that the phone can run them.
So
the cool thing is that they have them now available for everything. So
I was going to ask that. So people who don't go around every day thinking about 3D models, is this something that most companies have? Companies that are producing some type of product, do they have their products as 3D models?
Yeah, that's what we generally see. As soon as you do your own design work, then usually you have the CAD models. So the 3D workflow is just something that most people have now.
Great.
If you don't have the 3D models, there are some options out there technically to create something like scans, or hiring the company that builds your app to maybe produce the 3D models that you need. Maybe not 1,500, but there's always the opportunity of getting help with it or finding a solution.
We're seeing more and more photographers, for instance, getting into the scanning business now. So they're kind of just expanding what they did. So they used to just take photos, then they introduced drone shots of companies in front of their sort of their headquarters. They found out if I can do drone shots, maybe I should also just do drone videos and photography like that. And now there's sort of good lighting and good understanding like how to take the images and so on. It's just natural expanding of the photographer world. So we see like a growing industry there, that if you have products, that's probably a good way. Also, I've seen like a ceramic studio, like when you do sort of vases and stuff, they have unique prop designs, quickly scanning with the phone. The iPhone has a scanner now.
Yeah, I was going to say, in terms of emerging technology, we're seeing a lot of people just able to create 3D models just by using the LiDAR, which is built into the latest iPhones.
I mean, it's basically an afternoon of practice, and you can get really good results out there. And it's basically comes for free with the phone. So
and before we move on, let's talk a little bit about quality of these 3D models. So let's just say that that I have a product that's quite complex, and that I want to make sure that the model looks good. What goes into to making sure that happens?
It takes it's a combination of, it takes a little bit of skill, to be honest. I mean, you need to have a 3D artist sort of be able to know how to make good lighting and know where to sort of position textures and so on. But it's something that either it's a service that you can easily find, or something many companies have in-house these days.
Yeah, so basically a 3D designer is what I hear you saying.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's definitely worth a consideration, right? That if you want an AR app and you don't have in-house designers for it, make sure that the company you find that produces your app maybe has some 3D artists, so they can do both sides for you. It makes it easier in your workflow.
Exactly. in the Kompan case, we basically just consulted their own team. They had a huge, really skilled team. We just gave them some examples, figured out like how would be sort of best practice to just mass produce these, and then they just crunched them out and then made them available in sort of real time.
Yeah.
Everything real time, basically.
Yeah. So for those who are listening today, again, if you have any questions about this particular business case or just custom AR apps in general, feel free to throw them in the comment section, and we'll be happy to answer them. Should we move on, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Great. So let's look at a little bit into custom AR apps. And what I really want to do is give people a behind the scenes look at how we go about building a custom AR app. I think we've talked a lot about it already, but let's come into the engine room a little bit. Again, just to kind of recap, it's important to remember that really what it's all about is bringing your products to life, giving you ways for customers to engage with them. But I'm not just thinking about customers, guys. I'm also thinking about stakeholders. We talked before that it's not just about the end user. It can also be people in your sales team. It can be basically anyone in your organization. And it's really all about driving a better way to understand the value that your product delivers.
Yeah, and I actually think that we have a question here that pertains a little bit to this from Dennis. Dennis asks, what are the current limitations in terms of technology and industry application? And it's important, right, to understand what you want out of your product in order to begin to question what the technology can actually bring. And maybe you can just touch on like 2-3 key concepts here, Thomas, for Dennis, about where do you see the biggest limitations in terms of technology and industry?
Oh, that's a huge question. But let's see. Yeah, to narrow it down to a few one, I think the biggest limitation right now is the biggest issue that we normally address is like you have a large range of phones available right now. So we want to make sure that this is kind of this problem is fading out. You still want to make sure that your client base actually have a phone that is fairly recent, so that it can actually deliver. Especially if you go for web AR solutions, you want to make sure that you have sort of that setup in there. The phones are constantly getting better and better. It's becoming sort of like a very smooth ride, but it's still something to consider. And then what you probably want to think about is things like internet connection. You want to make sure that you have the right sort of, as we talked about, you want your products to be, you need them in 3D. So that's something you need to be mindful of. Right now, we can handle fair, decent size and complexity of models, but it's still, you need to know that if you want to bring in, say, a large production line, you need to sort of handle that a little differently and make sure that you kind of section and stuff and be a little smart about how you should show things.
Yeah, so one could say that a good advice is that the company that you get to produce your AR app should definitely know how to optimize 3D models so they work on as many cell phones as possible.
Right.
Because the end user might have old equipment that needs to have their 3D models optimized. I think that's a very good point, Thomas.
That's a good point. Thanks for that question, Dennis. So guys, let's look at what goes into building a custom app. And I think a good starting point, at least, is a customizable user interface. And what I like to think about here is that it needs to be a natural extension of your brand. And that way, it also needs to have the same look and feel. So basically incorporating your overall brand identity. But it's more than just the colors. It's more than just a logo, right, Thomas and Jacob? It's also about, incorporating your brand voice. Thomas, what are your thoughts on this? And do you have any concrete examples when we were working with Kompan?
Yeah, so I just want to add one more thing there that's very important to also sort of having what you call like a meaningful way of engaging. So you make sure it's not a gimmick, basically.
Right.
So you take tone of voice, but also Kompan has sort of, they want you to engage and be playful and have an easy time doing what they do. So you should really think about what kind of interaction is there, like how does that translate into your application. So you don't want sort of a flashy Pokemon Go approach if you have the speakers at BO, for instance. You don't want to go treasure hunting for your speaker. That would be sort of a mismatch in kind of like tone and communication, right? So
it definitely needs to be in sync with your current your brand values. Yeah. I like to think of it as a natural extension of your brand ecosystem and a new way to engage customers across the entire customer journey. That's one of the.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, when you talk about the interface, for instance, when you have something like the BO app, it's clean, it's Nordic, it's precision.
Right.
You want to have that also in your tone, right? So that people
Right.
expect that, like precision placement and so on.
Yeah, so everything from, colors to logos to buttons to just the general overall navigation, just that UI and the overall user experience is something to start thinking about when you're looking for a custom AR app. Jakob, sorry to interrupt you. Did you have a question?
Yeah,
or a comment?
we're getting some questions now. It's really great. So I just
Great.
want to tell the audience to bring the questions, and it doesn't matter if they fit into the current scheme we have right now. We would like to hear from you and know
Sure.
what's going on.
Sure,
and
we
and
can
let's
get to
go
it.
back to one short one here from Mina, because it's fairly simple to answer. I think it's for you, Thomas. What AR framework is used in Imagine It for Campaign? Thanks for the question.
That's an awesome question. We first of all, this is dual, so it's both on Android and iOS. And for this one, we basically built it from the ground up, but we use the AR Core, AR Kit frameworks that unload the individual phone. So everything about tracking and positioning and requiring the flow and so on, we just piggyback on what's out of the bag, so we don't have to build that from scratch. So, and that's something that both Android and iOS updates continuously. So we use that framework, and then we build sort of the rest of the application on top of it.
So this is a little bit technical, Thomas. Maybe you can explain to people what AR Core and Kit is.
Yeah, that's basically a built-in functionality on the operating system. So basically what's on iOS or Android. It uses the camera, it uses the different kind of, what do you call that, I can't say that word.
Accelerometer.
Thank you.
I probably couldn't say it either.
So it uses basically those technologies, get that feedback, basically like where am I pointed, how far away is the
Yeah, because your camera has to be able to see where you are in the world, right? There has to be spatial recognition. I think it's important for people to say that it's not just projecting things through a camera.
No, it's actually putting on top of surfaces and figures out
Right.
where surfaces are.
Right.
So that part comes out of the box. So that's really awesome, and it's constantly getting better.
Great. Were there more questions, Jacob?
Yeah, we have one more, but I think maybe we should finish with that one. I really like the question. It's Dennis. He asks, what's the next big thing in this realm, and how does the whole metaverse open up new opportunities? And I think as a company, we're already talking about the corporate metaverse as an extension of what Zuckerberg called the metaverse. But I think we should wait a little bit.
Let's save that.
But it's a very good question, Dennis, and we're going to touch back on it.
Sounds great. So let's move on. The other thing is easy organization, and you already touched on this, Thomas, before, at least in terms of Kompan, how they had a large organization. They needed to have an easy way to basically categorize their 3D models. So it's basically the way I look at it, the way I like to think about it, it's basically taking what they have in their product catalogs right now, which is probably organized by their different types of products, and then making that also organizable or accessible in the app. Is that the right way of thinking about it?
Yeah, I think so. And as we said, like what's really important here is that you don't have to rebuild the app to add new products. That's super important to Kompan. They don't want to get back to us every time they have one new play item, and they have seasonal play items, so they have new ranges. They try and launch, and maybe they discontinue, maybe they build them into something else. So they need to be able to just control that on a day-to-day basis, basically. Say
basically way of giving your product on the go. I can see here that we've designed it so that people can go into a folder. So it's basically thumbnail based, but people can also search by the product number. And I'm thinking this is a little bit more tailored for the sales team who want to maybe
exactly. They know those product numbers by heart.
Right.
And it also integrates with the catalog that has product numbers. So that's make sure that is always the same no matter what people call it. Some call it the springy toy, some call it the rocker, but if they look at that number, they know they definitely get that.
But it also spins back to the fact that there's still some customers who prefer to use the catalog, or maybe they have a difficulty letting go of it, but then the app speaks into it, so it becomes easier to bridge for people that maybe weren't completely ready to move to the app, but here they can see a clear usage of it where it pertains to the old world and brings it into the new. So it's a good feature.
Great. All right, let's move on to the next one, guys. So we have full scale or miniature, and I think this one's really important in terms of being able to show your products in different contexts. Obviously, if we showed everything in full scale, it would be really hard to get our heads around some of these larger products. So we also have the option of showing things in a little bit smaller scale. Let's start this little video real quick so I can show you guys what we're talking about. So here, this is actually me. I was using the app out in my yard. So I take a product, I go for outdoor fitness, And I think I take the cross training. I take the first one there, and I want to see what this looks like in my yard. So boom, here we see it down here. It's at full scale. But I say, maybe I want to bring it into a meeting room so I can show it at a much smaller scale. So you had it 1/10 right there. Here's at times 1.5, and then we're back to 1.1. I can move it around. I can rotate it. And really, if I wanted to, I could create my own outdoor fitness area. I could just outfit it with all type of equipment. And then I could easily just take a quick snapshot, which I'm going to do here, and I can save it and I can send it to people. But I could also do a request, which I think is kind of helpful for the salespeople, so they can send that to their teams. They can get started maybe on a purchase order.
Exactly.
Great. All right.
One thing also, like you talked about, you mentioned showing it sort of in the office. I was trying to showcase the whole concept of AR yesterday, and I was doing through a call like this. It's super awesome to just bring in a random object from Kompan and then actually just scale it down and show my phone showing it on my table.
Absolutely.
So that's a good way to illustrate the idea.
And then I just gotta say, you should do something that doesn't make you more fit, Corey, because you're making the rest of us look bad. That's the way we're going right now. Yeah, I have another question here. It's sort of funny. It goes a little outside of the scope of what we're doing, but it's Pranav. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. But he's asking, how can I develop it on my own? Like, what are the resources used for this? And can you maybe use AR in apps? Thomas, can you touch on this shortly?
Well, I think Google's already doing that in apps, right?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with Google, but I know that iOS has sort of a free resource where you can just basically go in on the app. I think it's called apple.develop or something like that. Try Google that. Yeah, they have a ton of sort of how to get up and get started. So yeah, basically, I know it's a thin answer, but basically go online. It's something that if you have a little bit of jobs doing this, you can actually find sort of all the APIs and all the libraries and all the stuff that you need to start building this. It's more about best practice and knowing what you do. We have, of course, as Corey mentioned, about 12 years of experience. So we know sort of all the shortcuts and all the pitfalls. But if you really want to dive into this, there's a ton of resources out there you can just start reading up on. And everything is for free. Basically, that's the most awesome part of it. We use the Unity engine as our sort of quickly jumping in there and maybe being able to just build this a little faster, and that is also free. So that's an amazing world we live in now. There's a ton of free tools. Once you start making money with this, you can just basically get everything for free and just get started. It's only your time.
Yeah, if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to point you to the right resources, but appreciate that question. So another thing that's often a hassle for companies is getting things set up in the App Store, which is something that we spend a lot of time on. We've actually set up a fast and relatively hassle-free way of doing this, not only getting it approved in the App Store, but also getting all of your marketing assets like your visuals set up. Anything you want to add here, Thomas?
No, exactly. Some people already have their own app store and then they know how to do this. Some people have no idea. We can just generate all the necessary images and we know sort of to basically give them a laundry list of what we need to put in there. And then we can either help them generate that content or we can get that content from marketing department.
Yeah, if you're out there in a marketing role right now, you're not thinking about the technical aspect of setting this up. You just want to get started with promotion as quickly as possible. So that's one of the things that you can tick off on your box.
It's a super important thing just to get before you move forward. What we really like to do also is as soon as we have something that starts to work, we will just share that. We have the test flight set up, so it's basically sort of a sandbox. So we just start sharing with our clients as fast as we can to get feedback and say, is that exactly what you experienced? Like how do you
Well, that's a good teaser for what we're going to be talking about in just a few moments with our process. So no, that was great. That was great. I think everybody's all excited now. So, and there's also in-app tutorials because obviously, once people get your app, once they download your app or go to the web-based app, they want to learn how to use it. And since we are kind of still early in this and we're still in an early adopter, maybe early majority phase on the product life cycle, not everybody knows how to use it, but you can actually instruct people how to do it by building in-app tutorials. Here's what we did for Kompan. It's basically all screen-based. There's a little bit of text, and it's basically 4 steps. And the way I feel about it is apps should be so simple. They should be so intuitive that it shouldn't require 25 steps to show people how to use your app. Is that correct?
No, that's true, and it's super important. Like we basically see, like when we kind of compare it to this, like you have your off-road bike. You have your dirt bike ready. You're sitting on it. The engine's revving up. You're ready to go. And somebody asks you, please turn off the engine and start talking about how the engine works and petrol and so on. And that's basically what we don't want. People at this point, they want to start having fun with the app. So
right.
3 to 5, really quick, how to do it, and then get moving. They can learn the rest from themselves.
Yeah. And I think that's also food for thought in terms of people thinking about how they want to design their app, how fast they want to get people started, what type of interaction they want to design. Really, what type of goal are they trying to achieve with creating this app? Those are some really good questions. We're gonna talk about those in just a few moments. Let's move on real quick. We talked about this a little bit, but basically, let's just say you're a company with thousands of 3D models. You need a safe and easy way to manage and store those. We use Microsoft Azure Storage Explorer, both to upload, manage, and store 3D models. And I think the great thing here is it's a really easy service to use. You don't have to be a tech whiz, and you don't have to pay external vendors for support every time you want to upload new 3D models, which can happen sometimes if you're using people who aren't experts. Thomas, do you want to add anything to this?
The two super important thing is like you own that storage, we don't.
Right.
So it's not it's your assets, and that's one thing. And the other thing is this can be accessed by other applications. So if you want to use your models for different things, which I think most people want to, for instance, it could be the app and a web version. It's the same assets you put in there, and you can use them for everything else. So that's really important for us.
No, that's really interesting for big launches, intellectual property, keeping things secret until they're ready for launch. I like that. Thanks for adding that.
And it's really good advice, right? To give somebody sitting out there thinking about this, make sure that whoever builds your AR app, they know how to control your intellectual property behind it. It's a really key thing to be knowledgeable about here, and actually ask that question to someone producing your app.
Yeah, that's true. And it also, you see a lot of services doing really great work at sort of hosting and displaying your assets, but just make sure that you own them still, because a lot of those places basically you are giving away your assets, and that's not a thing you want to do with.
Yeah, I think data security and privacy are super relevant here, especially when we're talking about a B2B market, and that's why we're going with the enterprise grade Microsoft. We're pretty safe there. And I think that gives people the peace of mind and the comfort knowing that their IP is in safe hands and it's not going to be breached in any way. So in addition to those, those things that we've already talked about, there's obviously lots of other ways that you can upgrade. You can pimp your app, so to speak. Things like snapshots, we talked about that as well. Doing branded snapshots, make your product viral. I think everybody wants that these days. Also, native OS integration, save to camera roll, social media sharing, all those things. But also multiple languages. I mean, if you operate globally, maybe you want to create an offering where it's in Spanish, maybe it's in Mandarin, English, so on and so forth. That's also something that's supported. But also thinking about region-specific content. I don't know how much we go into, maybe tweaking the user interface by region, but there's definitely ways of divvying up your product offering across regions. Do you guys have a few quick comments that you want to add to this?
Yeah, just real quick, like regions is mostly about versions. For instance, with the Kompan app in America, you can't have the fireman's pole. You only have sort of a safe slide. So that's like the variations in products of normal.
Don't want to get sued, right? Yeah.
No, exactly. Suing is bad. And multiple languages, it's the same interface. You basically just set a system up so that you can do it your own language. So you just make everything in your own language, but depending on where in the world the user are, if they choose to use another language, they will just replace everything that has any kind of text and replace that with whatever text is the same thing.
I think a good thing to emphasize here is the scalability of this. You can always start small, and depending on your team, how big it is, start in one department, and maybe suddenly you have the opportunity to scale that across your team, scale that across regions. That's a really important point. So guys, let's talk real quickly about our process. So we have a 5-week process that we go through to help people create their custom AR app. Thomas, you're the maestro here. You're the orchestrator behind the entire thing. Why don't you kind of quickly walk us through our 5-week process?
Yeah, okay, quickly. I'm trying not to read from your perfect list there, but basically, kick off discovery meeting. We talk like, what are we going to do? What is the tone of voice? What is the brand? Like, what kind of assets would we require from our clients, or what can we do? What can you do on your own? So to just get that down. Then real quick, we build what we call a mock-up. So that's we set up everything so it works. We get something to the phone, we get something to the app store. We make sure that we have at least a selection of the products. Normally, the 3D products will need the whole 5 weeks just to find them and make them available. But as soon as we have a couple, we have best practice of how to do that. We start to just push them in so you can really quickly see how everything's going to be. We set up, as I said, the test flight application. So you just get running builds every 3 days, every 5 days. So we have something, you just get the new updates, and we have this like really fluid process, like agile process. And then, yeah, basically we start to narrow this down, refine it, and finally we help you release it and make sure that normally what we do is like a stealth release. We make sure there's no misunderstandings. We can create bugs, we admit that.
Right.
But also sometimes just like a miscommunication somewhere in the organization, refinements on that. Like we basically have some feedback sessions, make sure we get everything tweaked, and when everybody is happy, we can just push a button and it will be out in the public.
Sounds great. If you guys have any questions about this process, feel free to toss them into the comment section. If we don't manage to get to them, we will follow up with you guys afterwards. Jakob, you had a comment?
Yeah, just that we don't let go after that. That's also an important advice, right? To give to whoever produces your AR app. Once it's done, you're not done with the company that made it for you necessarily. You want to return, because we transition from someone who produces the app to someone who's a consultant on the app and the usage and maybe other iterations coming further down the road.
That's a really good point. And I think Kompan's a really good example. Since we launched with them, we're continuing to work with them on improving the app, of course, and also adding new features.
Yeah, true. And we have an awesome relationship with the marketing department and the sales department, and they get feedback and they say, hey, we experienced this situation. It would great if we could have that feature. We had a lot of like awesome feature requests sort of building into the next expansion from people using it out there, because we are developers. We are not salespeople. We are not sort of clients in that form. So we can only go so far before it becomes an assumption. So it's really awesome to have that continued relationship.
Yeah, and think about that here, right? That what we're saying is what we as the app producer would like the customer to know or think about, because that makes a great partner for us, someone who actually engages with us and gives us the knowledge to be able to deliver what they want. So a good thing here is to know that you're never done. It's like buying a house. You always need to renovate. You always need to expand. You will always need some work on it. And that's basically what we're doing here with the apps as well.
A really good point.
We just bought a house there.
Yeah.
Right. So what's it cost? What's it cost to get one of these started? So our starting price is €35,000. And then there's obviously tons of ways that you can upgrade from that. Because I know some of you guys are thinking, okay, where do I start? Where's the ballpark figure? This is the ballpark figure for you guys to work with. In closing, I think there's 5 key questions that people need to ask themselves when they start thinking about their custom AR app. And I think we've gone through these. First of all, who's going to be using it? Is it, if you look at across your stakeholder map, who's using it? And then once you figure that out, think about how fast you want them to get started. I think that's going to have a lot to do with the amount of complexity that you bake into the app. And also really think about what do you want them to experience and how you want them to experience that. A great question is, what type of interaction are you trying to achieve? Are you looking for a high degree of complexity? You guys feel free to chime in if you want to. And I think the last one is obviously, and this is going to have a lot to do with the first 4 questions. What's the shelf life? Because some of these can be, have a shelf life for 3, 6, 12 months. Some may have a shelf life for a few years. But I think
some
these
might
are some
have 30 seconds. Basically.
Some may have, you never know, right? But I think it's also, again, what's your goal with this? What are you trying to achieve? What type of customer experience you're trying to deliver? Any comments to this, guys? We only have a few moments left.
No, I think that sounds it up kind of very nicely. I would really love to get back to a question where I think we have one question hanging.
We do, yeah.
So the next big thing.
Yeah, so just in closing, if you guys want to reach out to us, if you want some more information, this is mine. I don't know if you can see it, but you can definitely find us on LinkedIn. So here's our email addresses and our phone numbers. If you want to read more about custom AR app solutions with SynergyXR, please go to this landing page. Read more about it. We've got some examples there. You can also come by our snazzy new demo office here in beautiful Aarhus. If you're in Denmark, we'd love to have you come by. We'll give you an in-person demo, have a little coffee talk. We can also show you virtual reality, give you some mind-blowing experiences. So let's take that last question, and then we'll sign off.
Yeah, I'll just show it here on the screen. It's from Dennis as well.
Yeah. So
What's the next big
just so
thing
you
in the
guys
report?
know, I don't know if we're going to be cut off exactly at 11 o'clock. That could very well happen. If that does happen, let's just say thanks for joining us. Appreciate everybody joining us, and feel free to reach out to us if you guys have any more questions. It looks as though we're continuing. I'm not 100% sure, so let's just take the question anyway.
Yeah, we go.
Okay. That's a big one, like the crystal ball. What's the next big thing?
I mean, there's so many big things, right? There's so many big things.
I think two immediate one I see is like one is everything's going to merge. It's going to merge between application and web-based. So, and you just see more and more integration. And with that, I think the next big thing is like small things. So instead of having an app you interact with, kind of what we have a question about, like the PostNord application.
Right.
So little quick features, because engagement becomes quicker, it's faster to launch this. You will have smaller features, more and more small features, just like how far away, quick guidance, like can I get an arrow to where I need to be?
Well, I think Google Maps is already introducing this. If I'm not mistaken, I saw this recently that you're going to be able to have your phone. So we're so used to looking down on our phone for directions. You're going to be able to just hold your phone up, and it's going to recognize buildings around you. So I think that's coming if it's not already there.
So I see kind of like going two directions, like more and more what you call like complex functionality, customizations, configurations going to happen in one direction. And then I see the other direction is sort of micro solutions just blending in. And if you get glasses at some point, but what you see also is like probably going to happen soon, you get all those little hints, just something like running, like everybody has those suggestions. You just see more and more information getting sort of on a running basis. Just you might want to know that the kind of coffee you like is just around the corner, stuff like that. And like how wide is this road? Everything like that. Like just get that information.
And
so in many ways, it's a whole new. Sorry, go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah, one of the things that I really see right now is customability. Like that you bring an app that tells the user what to do, but you let's bring like an app, and then the user can build their own world. It's sort of also what we're about at Synergy is you can build your own experience with our building blocks, and if you need to add something, you can do that. And I have a feeling that's coming around as well, that it's not so much giving a closed experience, but the fact that Zuckerberg produced this metaverse thing, that it's bigger than that.
Well, he didn't produce the metaverse thing. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
And then that metaverse part is the second part of that question. I think what I see,
that's a big question.
Sort of kind of like a little bit of peek through. So you have the kind of the metaverse overlaid on the real world. So I don't know how that is, but there's a lot of mental pictures, but basically being able to sort of peek into some of that. So you have a completely 3D generated sort of immersive world, which is sort of the VR world. And you start to see components from that sort of peep into the real world through augmented reality is where I see that go in relation to the metaverse.
I'm going to toss this out there. I think we're going to see some huge innovations on the hardware side of things. I think we're going to eventually go away from having handheld devices. It'll be more wearable devices, in particular glasses. You know, there's a lot of talk right now about Facebook already coming out with their AR glasses. Nobody really knows what Apple's coming out with in the next 6 months. We don't know if it's VR. We don't know if it's AR. It could be a combination. Who knows? But I think that's going to be able to help us across a number of use cases. I think it's going to be able to put information in front of us, and who knows whether or not we're going to be able to interact with it with our hands. If so, then we're over kind of in a mixed reality context. But I think that's going to help in so many other ways than just marketing and sales. I think it's going to help us in training. I think it's going to help us in terms of service and maintenance. So it's super exciting to see what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
I think that's a great wrap there.
Are we still live?
We're live.
I don't think we're live anymore, but this is a great conversation. And but here's the thing: it's recorded. We can share it with people. So why don't we shut things down now? Say thanks to everybody for joining us. I think if anything, it's a jumping off point for our next LinkedIn Live event, where maybe we dive a little bit further into the metaverse, or what we're calling the corporate metaverse. Again, I'm Corey Morris, Jacob Sterrell, Thomas Finger from SynergyXR. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great week.
Thank you. Have a great one. Take care.